Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk, and it's Tuesday night. So what does that mean? We're live. Thanks for watching. You can obviously put all of your comments in the comment section, the live chat, and we will try to answer them. We certainly do not ask for super chats, but I will note that they do, in fact, come across the screen in big, bold, bright letters. So if that's what you intend to do, it makes it a little easier to try and answer your questions for sure. Now, for those of you who have never joined us before, my name is Scott Reisch. I am a practicing criminal defense attorney here in the state of Colorado. And we started this channel about two and a half years ago because we were frustrated by what we were seeing on the evening news regarding the coverage of a court case. And particularly, it was the Chris Watts case that kind of threw me over the edge, so to speak, where I was just thinking, I should do this. I can explain this better than anybody else can on the news because they have no idea what they are talking about whatsoever. Anyway, so we started the channel, and here we are now at 175,000 subscribers. I think we've gone over, 35 million views total for the channel, which, I mean, thank you all very much. Couldn't have happened without you, there's no doubt. And, well, here we are, and we've tried to keep it interesting with bringing you comments and commentary regarding new cases that are going on as well as old cases. And we were just talking before we came live here. Can you believe it's only been a week since the Dereck Chauvin verdict came down, but it seems like months, does it not? So, you know, there's always something going on in the world of true crime. There's always something going on in the world of just crime in general. And hold on one second here, because I'm having some issues where I'm not getting any comments showing up. Is no one joining us? Oh, there we go. Now I had to redo it. I was like, my screen was showing that we had 2 people watching. And that would, been me and Frank and Julie, all 3 of us, I guess. But apparently we have a few more viewers this evening, so that's good. I was getting a little worried there. So anyway, we put up our videos just about on a daily basis. We've been putting out kind of a weekly recap as well. And, we like to talk about the cases and give it to you straightforward. Here are the facts. Here's the law. We don't like to get into a whole lot of outlandish speculation because, I mean, some of the theories that people come up with on cases, interesting, good thinking. I like the way you're thinking. But what it comes down to is, what can you prove? And that's what I always want to focus on these cases, is that just because you have a hunch doesn't make it viable to the sense of you're actually going to be able to file charges. Police officers, detectives, they oftentimes have hunches, but they don't have enough evidence to charge somebody. We've seen that over and over on cases again. And, that's the way the system works. Sometimes cases, unfortunately, become cold cases, and sometimes they become, solved cold cases because someone somewhere knows something and they just need to tell somebody and come forward so that there can be some peace, particularly for the victim's family, as to who did it. We've talked about cases where decades have gone by, but at least the families know who perpetrated the crime, and they can have some peace, I guess is the word I'm looking for, that at least they know. At least they know. Maybe the person's already died. Maybe, they're already in prison, but something that can be done. So anyway, I want to thank all of you for joining. Like I said, I've been practicing criminal defense lawyer for 25 years. I've handled just about every kind of case you can possibly imagine. Think of the worst case you can possibly imagine. And yep, I've tried that case. And I'm not going to BS you. We've lost a few. It happens. And, sometimes you get the worst of the worst cases. There's nothing you can do other than make sure the client's rights are protected and due process is protected. And you make the government jump through the hoops. But at the end of the day, everybody knows exactly what more than likely will happen. We had a pretty good streak last year. Normally, I'm doing, on average, a trial a month. And then when COVID hit, I did 2 trials the entire year of 2020. But I was batting 1,000. That's right. Both of those trials, not guilty. Both of those trials in federal court, not guilty. Toot my own horn just a little bit because that's pretty rare. And then I got a lesser included charge on a homicide. And then I got a not guilty last week in trial. I guess almost 2 weeks ago in trial now. But man, that went by fast. And I still haven't seen that final check. Guess I should probably call him. Since we're looking at a potential life sentence, you think they'd want to pay their attorney. Funny how that works. All right, so let's get started. Obviously, a lot in the news. Tomorrow, there's been, we put it up today. Was it today already? I can't remember. So there's supposed to be a hearing in the Letecia, Chad Daybell matter tomorrow. First, I think it was scheduled for 9 or 10 a.m. And then we got an amended notice showing that it's going to start at, I think, 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. And we'll bring it to you live. If I'm able to do so, maybe we'll do it where I can literally comment while they're doing things or not doing things. They seem to have a lot of in-court meetings there in Idaho, in-chambers meetings, what I mean. And I'm not sure why. It's on Zoom for a reason. People are entitled to see what takes place in these matters. One of the constitutional rights is you have a right to a public trial. And that also means public proceedings beforehand. Pretrial matters. Anybody should be able to walk into any courtroom and see what the heck is going on. And in today's world, I do not know why every court case is not put out on a YouTube channel, or everybody should have access to WebEx. I just don't know why. I mean, what's the best thing for there to be confidence in our court system is that everybody can watch it at a moment's notice. Heck, if it were up to me, I would there should be cameras in every government building so that we can see what the heck they're doing in there. Sure, you got to have a little bit of privacy, but hey, they all work for us, right? When we go to a public courtroom, everybody should be able to see it. You can go down and look at the file, grab what's in it, copy of the motions, etc. And I'm not sure why, with the advancement in the last year as it relates to WebEx and Zoom, that we should not be able to have access to every court proceeding out there, and it should be able to be live and pumped out to the world to show what is going on in court. And I think some people would be surprised as to what really takes place in court if they actually saw it. You'd see cases getting great dispositions, usually because there's problems with the case and the defendant's taking a deal. Then you're going to see cases where you just think, wow, that is not fair at all. What is going on? But I think it should, I think it should be out there. I really do. I think people, if they know they're being videoed, they know they're being recorded, i.e. body cams, they're supposed to be on their best behavior because they know that everybody could have an opportunity to see this. So we'll see. Pittsburgh. All right. Question from Mandy. Hey, have any of the dumb criminal contestants responded regarding their free mug? No, not a single one. Ungrateful, I must say. I mean, here we go. Take the time to find their story. Let them have their 15 minutes of fame as a dumb criminal contestant winner and not even have the appreciation. I would love to talk to a dumb criminal. We could put him on the air. We could talk to him. Like, what was going through your head when, you decided to, smuggle the Xanax pills and the fentanyl in your artificial leg, even though the police asked you, hey, is there anything in the leg? And you responded, nothing in the leg, man. And, well, then, of course, there was. Then, of course, there was stuff in the leg. And, like, what were you thinking? Why would you think you could get away with that? I mean, is that so unreasonable? You want to just know? Just the human nature of it all I'd be curious, like, what were you thinking? I mean, because I've had that conversation a lot over the years with clients thinking, I'm not criticizing you in any way, but this is a pretty bizarre situation. What the hell were you thinking? And more importantly, how the hell did you think that you were going to get away with it? And most of the time, they have no good answer. It was just kind of heat of the moment type of thing. And but yeah, Sally, I've been working law longer than you, Scott. Laugh out loud, but I'm only a legal assistant. Don't ever say only a legal assistant, okay? I can assure you that legal assistants are more valuable oftentimes than having another attorney. Most legal assistants know the law better. They know the procedure better sometimes than most attorneys, particularly younger attorneys. And the old attorneys, like, how do you file this? How do you turn on the computer? Things like that. So don't ever just say a legal assistant. Every legal assistant is worth their weight in gold. Seriously. Let's see here. Mary Rose, without the death penalty, no leverage to get murderers to plead guilty. I cannot necessarily disagree with you. And yes, there's problems with the death penalty as to how it is met out, so to speak. One can certainly make the argument that there was lots of perhaps a racist tinge to the use of that being the death penalty. But on the other side of the token is that it's authorized. It's not illegal to have the death penalty, but the legislatures have lots of states decided that's what they're going to do. And if that's what they want to do, that's up to the legislature and it's up to the people. And if the people don't like it, then they can, vote those legislators out and they can put the death penalty back on there. From a practical sense, it's a tool. I'm not sure why anyone would want to limit the prosecutors. And understand, I'm a defense attorney. All right, I was a prosecutor for a little while when I was in the Marine Corps on active duty. But I'm a defense attorney. I've done that. But I'm also a realist. And if you've got somebody that's done really, really bad things, and they say, hey, we're thinking about going death, suddenly things get real serious at that time. Like, oh, wow, I got to go put together a mitigation package and try to see what I can do to convince him that, this defendant's life is worth saving. And I mean, there's a lot of pressure to that, not only on the attorneys on both sides, but also as it relates to the defendant. Like, they have to start making decisions. Like, man, like, they really want to kill me, man. Kill you. And they're like, oh, that's not. And they're like, well, gee, how does that work? Oh, well, let me tell you how it works. Not, And so yeah, it's a tool. I mean, it's a tool for negotiations, and that's really, a lot of people talk about it. Life in prison usually never meant life in prison, but when the death penalty took place and started, back in the 70s, they started using it more after it was found to be unconstitutional there for a while. It was being used a lot. So the people where death penalties were being imposed, they were using it as a plea bargain and said, hey, instead of killing my guy, why don't you do life without parole? That's the way they'll stay in custody forever. And a lot of people took that option, said, fine, you never get out of prison, and we promise we won't kill you, the state being the one doing the promising there. But it also racked up all these sentences. Like here in Colorado, they doubled what the potential exposure was going to be. It is what it is. That's what legislators do. They can fix it. They can change it anytime they want. And if the governor signs it, then they can pass the bill. But it's the type of thing where it's a tool, and I know prosecutors think that handicaps them. If you go and accidentally kill one person, problem, sorry, But what happens when you kill multiple people, like the James Holmes of the world? And maybe that's not a good example because he had some serious mental health issues, and everybody realized that one except for the prosecutor in that particular case. That prosecutor was George Brockler, who tried to be our governor, and then he tried to be the attorney general and lost, and now he's back in, I think he's doing private practice now. I hear him on the radio occasionally, but, if that's not a case, assuming there was no mental health issues, why is that not appropriate? 12 people, at what point suddenly you have no redeeming qualities whatsoever, and it's so aggravated that you're such a danger to the community that basically, we should, the state has the authority to do that. I don't know. Up here we have, Boulder, the shooting, Mr. Alyssa is his name, who, I think they just added 49 additional counts. Nobody really knows what he did. No one's really sure. The family has made representations that there were mental health issues that were being treated with, but maybe not really well. So it really is, it's a tough case. At a certain point, it's like, what do? You get this, you get a volume discount on crime. There's a judge, a very good judge, fine judge. He's, and I'm going to say know him. I've appeared in front of him. It's not like we're friends or anything like that, but his philosophy was very simple. Like, I'm here to punish you. I'm not here to rehabilitate you, get you treatment. I'm here to punish you for the conduct that you did, which is really what the criminal justice system was kind of meant to do. Then it was a little shift kind of towards rehabilitation, like, hey, let's give you a skill. Maybe we'll get you some treatment. And this judge's philosophy is, that's not my concern. My job is to punish you. Anyway, he wouldn't take stipulated sentences. And what a stipulated sentence is when the defense and the prosecution say, hey, judge, we're going to have a stipulated sentence that this defendant is going to get probation or he's going to get 10 years in prison, and you're going to go along with it. You're just going to be a rubber stamp. Most judges will do that because they have the understanding that the counsel have a better feel and understanding for the case, so they will do stipulations. But this judge would not. And there were several old school judges like that said, no, I am not a puppet. I will be the one that makes the final decision. It's kind of like when you go to federal court. There's no stipulations. You go in there knowing you could get the minimum to the maximum sentence, and it's always up to the judge. And you have to tell your client, I think this is what you're really going to get under the guidelines. But I have to let you know the judge can impose the maximum sentence if he wanted to. I don't think he won't do that, but that's what it was. And so this old school judge is like, I don't do stips. It's open sentence. So if the maximum penalty is 20 years, you could get probation, community corrections, halfway house, or prison up to the maximum penalty. The judge was like, that's my whole range of options. And he always thought if you had multiple cases and multiple victims, you got consecutive sentences, one after another. He didn't believe in concurrent sentences because his philosophy was, why should you get a volume discount for crime, right? The less crime you commit, the better the deals become. This isn't Costco or something, right? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And a lot of judges do not abide by that philosophy these days. It's really, really interesting to see judges' statements when they apply for a judgeship these days, when they go in to be appointed, and it's all about, treatment. And I get that. It makes sense, but there are some people that, no matter what you do, you're not going to fix them. And, some people may not like that, but that's just the reality, the way it is. And as someone who's practiced criminal law for 26 years, everybody has a story. Everyone has a story. No one wants to be judged at their worst moment in their life. You want to take the whole picture and say, look, I'm a good person. Sure, I did, all these years of picking up spiders and putting them outside and, working at the church, at the food bank, whatever. Okay, sure, I had this one bad night where things went really, really wrong, but I'm a good guy. And as this judge would say I'm sure you're a good guy. But when you come to court, we're not here to decide whether you're a good guy or a bad guy. It's simply about whether the act was committed, and if it was, what punishment should be imposed as decided by the legislature in that particular range. So, sentencing is I don't know how else to say it, but sentencing is the trickiest thing in the criminal defense world. I can go try a case like that. Let's go do it. Rules of evidence apply. Let's go. But sentencing, you got to, from the defense perspective, it's like, here's all the scenarios. You got the best case scenario. You got the worst case scenario. The unknown, right? You got to get the DA to go along with it. You got to get your client to go along with it, which is sometimes difficult because they're like, but I didn't do it. That's just not fair. I'm a good person. I understand you're a good person. Well, let the judge know you're a good person, but that's really not what sentencing is about, right? So that's the hardest part. You get in front of a judge, you're like, okay, I've done 50 sentencings in front of this judge. I know exactly what he's going to do. And then the one day he does something completely different. You just never know. So what it really boils down to, like in anything, you need to know your judge. I don't care if you have the best sentencing mitigation argument ever prepared on the face of the earth, ever presented in law. If you don't know your judge, it's completely useless. It's kind of like when you have a good motions issue, like say you have a motions to suppress issue, and you think, hey, this is really great. You talk to your colleagues and you're like, I got a great issue, man. They're like, oh, you got a great issue. You got to go litigate that. And you even talk to the DA and he's like, yeah, I know. It looks like you maybe have a good issue, but, I know this judge pretty well and, I think we're okay, right? Because he knows the judge. And you'd have to know the judge as well. The motions issue is only as good as the judge that you are in front of. I mean, I swear there's judges out there that their entire time on the bench have never granted a motion to suppress. Really, Judge? So let me just get this straight. It is your position that in your 30 years on the bench, never has the police officer crossed the line and violated somebody's rights. I find that hard to believe, but that's why you have to know the judge. So you can tell your client, I think you have an issue. My colleague thinks you have an issue. But guess what? You have drawn the worst judge ever when it comes to legal issues. They wouldn't recognize the Fourth Amendment. Everything is reasonable in their eyes. So that's what we have to deal with. All right. Okie dokie gave a love to the moderators. Appreciate the moderators. I know sometimes, listen, let's give the moderators a big round of applause. All right. Seriously, the moderators, they volunteer. They try to do the best they can. And I'm all about free speech. I am not a cancel guy. I am not a YouTube can censor kind of thing. Like, hey, this is a public platform. But you got to keep it civilized, right? You got to be nice about it. You can agree to disagree as long as you're going to engage in an intellectual conversation. But if you're just going to, start calling people nasty names, you could get bumped. Why? Because you're not really engaging in intellectual conversation. You're engaging in name calling. And this is like an adult channel, right? Because it has adult content in the sense that we're talking about crimes. And oftentimes that involves people dying, people being assaulted in various manners and ways, right? So adults engage in intellectual conversations. So you can say, hey, I think somebody should be guilty because of these. These are the reasons why. Somebody responds, I appreciate and see how you can see that, but I think you need to take this into consideration, and maybe, we can see eye to eye, but not, oh my God, you're stupid, you're racist. Oh my God. I mean, come on. If that's the best you got, and I really, really hate that. I mean, I really, really do. I mean, if all you can do is call somebody a name, or you say, "Oh, you're a racist," that means that person more than likely has won, because once you call them names, you basically are shutting down the argument, saying, "I'm not going to argue with you anymore," and that's. I don't know. At least what I like about being an attorney is, and you turn on the TV and you see these talking heads, and they're talking over each other, and they're just spewing their lines. This is what it is. And like, it's obvious that one side, maybe is ignoring a fact, but you can't ignore facts. Like when you go to court. And what I like about to go to court is, guess what? Only one person speaks at a time. The other side will get their opportunity to speak, but one person speaks at a time, and you don't interrupt. Well, unless maybe you're in trial, and then you have to object to preserve the record. But that's different. But when you go in for argument and you're trying to persuade somebody, you ever seen an appellate argument where the other side objects or speaks over the other side? I can't think of a single time ever. So, that's what I do like about that. And you have to treat people with dignity and respect. And it matters. And there's so many, keyboard warriors out there these days that just want to, type everything. They're really tough. They're going to tell everybody the way it is. Really? Would you tell that to my face? Really? Okay. Because I doubt you would. And if that's, the keyboard warrior mentality is I think it's pretty darn cowardly. And there was a judge here not long ago where she made everybody come to court. In criminal cases, everybody's got to go to court. Critical stages of the proceeding. We talked about that the other day on our show. The defendant has a right to be there. Why wouldn't they? The judge wants them there. Usually they're on bond. They have to show up as a condition to bond to show up at their next court date. But in civil cases, this judge, who is a very good criminal court judge, but when she rotated, she made everybody show up. Because what she found was, in the civil side of things, the civil arena, there were people that would say the mean, nastiest things about the opposing counsel, and then the other side would say mean, nasty things. But when they came to court, suddenly they didn't want to, they were embarrassed by their letter. Well, why weren't you embarrassed when you sent it out? And she would admonish them, like say, listen, to be a professional, you have to treat people with respect, right? That is what is that's what gets you your credibility. How do you treat people? I've had cases where, the DAs are like, hey man, you got a tough case to overcome here. I think I've got your guy. Hey man, I appreciate that, and give me everything I need in the discovery, and we'll battle it out. If we can come to an agreement, so be it. If not, we'll go to trial, and that's what we'll do. And we'll play by the rules, and we'll play fair. We're not going to call each other names. You just don't do it. And that's why we talked about the Letecia-Vallow and Chad Daybell case, and we can talk about that in a minute. I just do not get what is going on there and why one particular attorney there thinks that this is going to be a good idea. So we'll talk about that. Let's see. We got a... Okay, okie dokie. Good transition here. We're talking about Letecia-Vallow and professionalism. let's go there. Do you think the attorneys for the Daybell-Vallow are slyishly not having their clients present for purposes of a possible mistrial? I don't know exactly what their intentions are. I know early on in the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell case was that they were doing hearings from the jail. Daybell would sit there with Mr. Pryor and they would have their court appearance. And it worked, right? I'm just telling you, I want my client at every court appearance. Every court appearance is the critical stage of the proceeding. I don't care if, you can say, hey, client, go sign this waiver of speedy trial. Another 6 months will begin from today's date. Just trust me on this. Oh, no, I want my client there because, it's not uncommon. I know you may find this hard to believe. For those of you who are new to this channel, wait for it. That's right. Clients have been known to turn on their attorney when they lose. I know it is hard to believe. I can tell you, I have had situations where I have been the greatest thing since sliced bread. Could do no wrong. Scott, that was amazing. Scott, that was the greatest closing argument I have ever heard. You are amazing. And then the verdict comes back guilty. Then suddenly the client looks at you like, how did this happen? What did you mess up? Because that was the greatest argument ever. You must have done something wrong. No, I didn't do anything wrong. In fact, you're right. I did a pretty good job. Just the jury didn't believe what we were selling that day, which we thought, you're telling me that was your version of the truth. So that's the way it goes. When you go to court, there's always a winner and there's a loser. There's never two winners when it comes to court. And then, of course, the client says, you suck. You should have done this. You didn't ask the question that I wanted to ask. Well, because it was irrelevant. Of course, I didn't ask that question. It would be objected to. Well, you should have asked it. Well, no, you don't get to make those decisions. Well, I want all my money back. Nope, doesn't work that way. Well, I'm going to grieve you. Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. Just because you lose does not mean that an attorney was ineffective. Sometimes attorneys do a great job and you still lose because you don't have the facts on your side, or it's a closed case, but they found for the other side. So I'm saying, I tell people, you want justice, don't go to a courtroom, right? You're not going to get it. There's always going to be one side that leaves unhappy, for sure. But it's true. That's right. Clients have been known to turn on their attorneys. And I'm going on a limb here, okay? Obviously, we know Lori Vallow's had a little bit of an issue when it comes to previous husbands. They've had a little bit of an issue about staying alive. We've jokingly said, at least, Daybell is in custody. Maybe he wants to stay in custody because he thinks he's safer there. Just saying, just an observation. But if I was their attorney, I would want them at every stage of the proceedings so they could not say that they were not getting the straight scoop as to what was taking place and what was being done right there. It would be easy for somebody to claim later, yeah, that hearing that I didn't show up and they waived my appearance for, that's not what the attorney said was going to take place. And I wanted to be there. Right? Did the client really give consent? Oh, you don't need to be there. It's just scheduling issues. I don't want my client to be there because I may look silly. Right? Not good. I mean, think about it. We know early on that Lori Vallow was obviously at the initial appearances. He was at the initial bond setting. She was at the preliminary hearing, which didn't go, well, actually, I take that back. Mr. Means did not do a preliminary hearing. She was there for the hearing regarding visitation issues, or the sheriffs were in fact listening to their conversations and not allowing an attorney-client visit, and therefore she, should have a bond. I knew that was a losing argument from the beginning, and the judge agreed when he heard the evidence, or the lack thereof. And ever since then, we really haven't seen much of Lori Vallow. Some people have speculated and said, well, her roots are growing out and she doesn't want everybody to see her with, gray hair or without her, whatever. Who knows? The reality of it is neither one of the defendants, Lori Vallow nor Chad Daybell, are there in court. I like this Judge Boyce. He seems like a nice, pleasant guy. But, and not saying he can't have a dark side to him, because a lot of judges can, but there are some judges that will give a little more when it comes to the defense, so to speak, or even to the prosecution. This judge seems to let the defense talk, and then rules for the prosecution, knowing full well that what the defense keeps saying is completely irrelevant. Like the last hearing that was held, I guess, a couple of hearings ago, regarding the whole situation regarding the tampering, the allegation that witnesses were being tampered with by the prosecution, for giving them kind of the lowdown as to the status of the case, and saying, when Mr. Means gets done, saying that I'm a lying, cheating bastard, what Mr. Wood said to the witness, apparently, maybe he should probably focus on the facts of the case instead of worrying about, calling the other side bad names, right? It just makes sense. So I don't get it. So hopefully the hearing tomorrow, Judge Boyce is going to put his foot down, put the gavel down, crack down, and say, gentlemen, we're going to set a trial date. Okay? We're going to resolve this issue of the preservation of the DNA, or the consumptive testing, which more than likely it's going to be tested. And so there's not enough to divvy it up to both sides. The judge should simply say, defense, you've been put on notice. This DNA testing will be consumptive, which means that it'll all be used up in the testing. So you're not going to get your crack at having your own expert do it. But if you want your expert present to make sure that they do everything correctly in accordance with all the rules that go along with the labs and DNA testing, so that there is reliability as it relates to that DNA testing, the cutting of whatever they're taking out, the processing, and when they stick it in the machine and it comes up with all these little squiggly lines, and I can tell generally that's something there when I have to look at that, but that's what you hire experts to do and say, what do all those little squiggly lines mean, right? They know what it means. I don't. Explain it to me. So you can have your expert there. Otherwise, the test is going forward. Let's get the results. Let's move forward. Now, from the defense perspective on this whole DNA thing, I'm telling the defense here, I don't know all the facts of your case. I'm telling you that, right? But what have I said from a defense perspective? You have a speedy trial from 6 months from the date that you say not guilty in Idaho, just like you do here. It's 90 days in federal court, really 70 days if they're in custody. But the point is, had they said, fine, let's go to hearing, the prosecution wouldn't have had these DNA tests done in time for a trial. They wouldn't have had time to get another prosecutor. So the defense has lost just about every advantage they have by seeking all these continuances. And I know there are some people in the criminal defense world that delay. sometimes that's the case. I'm trying to think, and I'm just saying this is a fact. I have either walked a client out the door, not lesser included charges, walked the client out the door on first degree murder cases 7 times, or they've dismissed like a week before, 7 times. And I'm just saying that's a lot. Most criminal defense attorneys never even win one homicide trial in their lifetime. A lot of attorneys simply don't do it because the stress is too much. But every one of those, I think with the exception of 2, I have done everything in my power to go on the first trial setting. Why, you might say? The government, in all of their bureaucracy, in all of their clumsiness, in all of their incompetence, and I don't say that about everybody, I'm just saying generally, all right? So I don't need the 40 tax of, I work for the government, I'm not incompetent. No, I'm just saying generally. You know what I'm talking about, okay? The bureaucracy of it all. They're slow to get going, all right? Think of this. Think of the government when it comes to a trial setting as a big steamroller. And what do steamrollers do? You know, it kind of flattens out all that hot asphalt pavement to make it nice and smooth. They run that big steamroller there. Does that thing, take off from the line like a muscle car or a Tesla, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds? No. It starts out a little slow, right? Because it's heavy. It's big. It's got a lot of bureaucracy to it, right? It gets going. But once that bureaucracy, the government gets going like that big steamroller, you ever try to see a steamroller stop on a dime? It doesn't, right? It takes time. You got to pump those brakes, so to speak. And you don't want to be in front of it when it gets going fast. And so I have found through trial and error that delay is not always a good thing. Delay gives the government more time to prepare their case. Most people on the government side do not believe that, say, when you have a homicide case, that you're going to go in your first setting. Oh, they never go in their first setting. They never go. And when you show up and you say, I'm ready to go, let's do this. Oh, well, we don't have a witness. Okay, so what are you asking for? Oh, you're asking for continuance? Oh, there's only 3 weeks left on speedy trial, Your Honor. And then the judge looks at you and says, what do you intend to do, Mr. Reich? Well, Your Honor, I was prepared to go to trial. And I am ready to go. And let's do this thing. Then the judge says, well, how am I going to get this trial in the next 3 weeks? I don't know, Judge. Not my problem. All I know is my client has a statutory right to a speedy trial. And you're not going to violate his right, are you? Because the remedy is dismissal of the charges. So they think, oh my gosh, we got to. And then the court says, fine, I know what I'll do. I'll throw some dates out there and you're not going to be available. And she throws out multiple dates and you're like, I can accept that, Your Honor. Why? Because we're not a one-man show here at the Reich Law Firm. We have 5 attorneys. I'll get that covered. Let's do this thing. Judge, ready to go. Because the government never thinks you're going to go. The best, and I'm not trying to give legal advice. I'm not giving any legal advice whatsoever. Just an observation. The defense for Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell have completely squandered that opportunity. I mean, now they have multiple prosecutors working on the case. They brought in a, supposed experienced trial lawyer to do it from a different state, because apparently there are no experienced trial lawyers in Idaho, which would be a little offensive, don't you think, to all the attorneys in Idaho, particularly that have experience, that would have said, hey, I'd jump on this case. Anyway, so they hired this lady, and she's ready to go. It's her full-time job to work on this case. Probably doesn't have any other cases to work on. And then you got these 2 defense attorneys who I'm sure the retainer is just about gone or gone. And then you have a situation where you are not you don't have the opportunity to work on it full time. I mean, they're solo practitioners. They've got other clients to keep happy. They have to have other court appearances, get new clients. They're not focusing on that case basically 8 hours a day like the government is. When you have multiple attorneys, government has vast resources. They can designate whatever they want to it. Most people can't designate that kind of dough, that kind of money for a private side. It's lovely when people say, I don't care what it costs, do whatever you need to do. I love that. But that's really, the money is no cost. It's probably like once every 50 or maybe even 100 clients. Because let's face it, it always makes a difference. It always matters when it comes to the money. People just don't want to squander it, even if their liberty's at stake. So that's my take on that. Now there's going to be DNA testing that's done. Hell, I mean, the defense should know, right? I mean, what's the DNA going to show? That it's JJ and Tylee? Did they find something there that maybe they think it's somebody else's? Okay, fine. Probably going to come back as Eric Cox's or something there. But, I mean, this case is not that, it's not about they have to prove that you killed the child, simply that you knew that the child was killed, died, passed away, and you knew that they buried it. They buried the children on the property. The whole concealing of the both JJ and Tylee. I mean, the defense, Mr. Pryor did a pretty good job at the preliminary hearing. Will it be enough at the end of the day? I don't know. But really, the question is okay, what do you think my client knew, and when did they know it? That's really the case, right? When did you know that those children were there, and when did they know it? Bottom line. Certainly some evidence that looks bad, particularly Mr. Chad Daybell's call when he's sitting there and they're executing search warrants and he's sitting in the driveway or across the way, I guess. And then Lori Vallow calls from the jail. Hey, what's going on? Not much. They're there. They're looking. Yeah, so maybe I'll talk to you later. Not really sure. But if I do, I love you, right? I think one can infer at that point reasonable inference drawn from the evidence that they must have known you're getting warm. You're getting warm, right? That's pretty bad evidence there. Circumstantial evidence indeed, but certainly enough to carry the day. And so, I just think, I'm not sure what the defense is thinking. I would have tried this case maybe. And this is the problem when you do have a high profile case, then you have to start wondering, maybe the defense is dragging it on for their own purposes. Who knows? Maybe they're going to get on court TV or something and they're going to promote, kind of themselves when the case is going on. You just never know. I remember we had that case with ABC News where they followed both the defense and the prosecution around and they taped the inside. It was called ABC. It was in the jury room and actually taped the deliberations. And every now and then they would still replay it. And I would always get somebody calling like, dude, I saw you on TV. And, one of my hesitations of ever doing that case was the fear that, well, God, what if we lose? The first thing they're going to do is say that, oh, Scott was just out, showboating, so to speak, and trying to promote himself versus representing his client, which was really the first thing from the truth. And there were other factors where people encouraged it to take place, and it worked out well for us. We got a very good result in that particular case, but I was, always worried about that. So all the other more reasons why people should be at their court appearances so they know exactly what's going on. Let's see. Now I see this. Somebody, Mad B Design. Yeah, Pryor had a charge. He did. But guess what? How does that affect his representation in this particular case? I don't think it does. I mean, let's face it. Not everybody is perfect. People make mistakes, and I don't know enough about that particular situation where I'm going to comment on it and say that, he was charged with a serious crime. He went to trial, said he was not guilty, and my understanding they found him guilty of a misdemeanor. That's it. But it has nothing to do with the representation of this particular case. Scott, does Lori get death benefits while in jail for being a widow now, not talking insurance benefits? Normally not. If anybody is receiving some sort of public assistance and you go to jail, after 30 days, all those benefits stop, and you have to reapply for them when you get out. So, Audrey, I hope that answers your question there. Thanks for the super chat. Let's go down here. Let's see here. So how do you joke? Let's see here. Hola. This is from Lydia. Hola, regards from Mexico. Love your channel. Thank you, Lydia. Gracias. Muchas gracias. ¿Cómo está? Me llamo Scott. Yo soy abogado. Necesitas pagar $25,000. How's that? Right? Deposit of $25,000. What's the word for retainer? I have to remember that. I worked for the public defenders. I loved the clients. We would ask, PDA. Let's see. When I worked for the public defenders, I loved the clients who would ask for a real attorney. Yeah, that's just so ridiculous. We have lots of, people, I don't want to go with the public defender. I'm telling you, some of the best attorneys I've ever seen have been public defenders. Okay. Public defenders, most of them are, they're absolutely devoted to their job. The problem with most public defenders' offices is they don't get enough money to hire enough staff. And when they have 150 felony cases pending, there's no way that they have enough time to appear in court, meet with the clients, investigate, everything along those lines. So it's just, it's just, I don't like it when people say that about public defenders. Some of the best attorneys I've ever seen, some of the things I've learned, some of my best tricks of the trade, so to speak, have been from public defenders. I don't like that either. I've had people say, hey, I want to hire you. Okay, where are you? I'm in custody. Well, can you afford a private attorney? Well, no, I've got a public pretender right now. Oh, really? Who? Hey, I know them. They're a great attorney. Well, I don't like what they're telling me. They're telling you what you need to know, not what you want to hear. And that's usually when, clients go sideways with their attorneys. Their attorney's giving them straightforward, honest advice. Yeah. Like, you got problems with your case. You're probably going to lose. And people don't like that. And then they start going attorney shopping. Let's see. Smiley. I get these questions quite a bit. Can the armchair detective be stopped by the law in the UK for traumatizing the Rusiks in the US? I have no idea what the law is in the UK, so I'm not even going to speculate. But if somebody's doing something wrong with you, there's usually, if it's criminal in nature, you go to the police. If it's civil in nature, you sue them. But you normally have to go to the location where the person is doing the harassing or saying mean and nasty things. So then it comes down to a cost analysis benefit. Is it worth going to hire an attorney in England to go after a YouTube channel that comes up with some different perspectives. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't know. They need to contact a barrister in the UK. Let's see here. Tried to continue it, and the public defender said, absolutely not. You have to drop it. Yeah. I mean, public defenders, I'm telling you, I mean, yes, everybody hates, if you're in a misdemeanor court, you're going to get an inexperienced public defender. But I'm telling you, they're practicing. I mean, they're getting there. But let's say everybody's got to learn somewhere, right? Let's see here. Answer a couple more questions. Wow, can you look at that? It's already been an hour. It goes by so fast. We should just do this all night, right? Nah, it's sure. Frank and Julie would like to go home sometime. I'm just hitting my stride now here. Let's see. Shout outs there, questions. There wasn't a particular case that kind of jumped out or everybody wanted to talk about. Okie dokie. Can YouTube creators be held liable for defamation? Sure. It gets a lot trickier when people are considered public figures, or they put themselves out there, start doing interviews, things like that. You have to, it's much more difficult, but they're going to have to go to the law in England to do that. Go after those who use their loved ones. I'm not sure what that means. Sorry, I was just trying to look at the stuff there. So, wow. So anyway, I mean, gosh, there's so many things we could have talked about. We didn't even get to it. It just shows you how it goes by so fast. And, the questions here, I mean, our subscribers are some of the smartest people ever, and they have a very, very good understanding of the law, and they just ask the best questions that lead off on little tangents. And I'm sorry, sometimes it goes that way. And it goes by so fast. But, if you haven't done so already, hey, hit the little like button, hit the subscribe button, and we appreciate you doing that. Now, in a little bit, we're going to do our Patreon show. And I don't know, Frank, have we figured out how we can do a tour?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
We need to do a test.
Okay, so maybe in the middle of the break, we're going to do a test. But if you're a Patreon, we're going to do our little tour. We oftentimes get people to ask, well, what does your office look like? What does this look like? So I thought, hey, maybe tonight we'll do a tour of the office. And we'll do that for the Patreons as well. Here, what's going on with George Floyd being given a pardon? Well, an application went in. We talked about it today. Looks like from the comments predominantly come in as to they don't think that George Floyd should be pardoned. But if it was based upon, remember, the convictions for that act and that act alone, not what you think that, that should have been done. But if the cop lied and they can prove that he's liar, and had integrity issues, it throws into doubt every one of those cases that officer had integrity issues, had honesty issues, throws doubt into that. That's why we need good police officers, because if they don't do it right, it throws doubt on the entire proceedings. And, that's not good. But then again, you got to hold the judiciary responsible for some of that as well, too. These judges that say, the cops never can do anything wrong. They're the best of the best. I mean, the bottom line, I have been practicing law for 26 years. Predominantly, and if not almost exclusively most of that time, criminal defense. And I have to work hard to stay up on the law. I mean, cases are coming out all the time from our appellate courts, Supreme Court, because we do practice in federal courts as well, 10th Circuit, to keep up on all of that stuff, let alone the law as it relates to search and seizure law. Okay? Very complex area of law. I thought I had a book here. I mean, like, here's a book we've got, right? This is a condensed version of basically search and seizure law. Now look at that, right? Write books on it, and they update it every year. And no disrespect to the police officers, but you're not going to learn all this in your, you got 80 hours or 2 weeks worth of law training at the police academy, and suddenly you become a search and seizure expert. I find that hard to believe. Okay? I really do. I find it hard to believe. And for a judge and a district attorney to always think that their cops can do no wrong is a complete disservice to everybody if they made a mistake, right? What was the case just recently? Was it the Wright case? Jeremiah Wright, the one up in Minneapolis as well, where they had pulled him over for a traffic violation for, am I getting the right case right? The one in Minneapolis happened. It was the one in regards, it was going on the same time as the Dereck Chauvin trial. Duante Wright case. They pulled him over for hanging an air freshener on his mirror. Okay? Really? I mean, it must have been a real slow day in policing that the police have nothing better to do than to pull people over for having something dangling from their mirror. I mean, seriously, people. And I know people are going to say, but he had a warrant. Okay, but they didn't know he had a warrant, right? Should he have, tried to resist? No. I tell clients all the time, don't resist. You think it's unlawful, you don't resist. But all of that could have been avoided if the cops weren't authorized to pull somebody over for some nonsense that you have an air freshener hanging from your mirror. Now, let me give you it's a real life situation, right? They used to pull people over all the time, particularly in Denver. And I would have clients that get pulled over all the time for a cracked windshield or items hanging from their mirror. They don't really do that anymore. In fact, at a certain point, the DAs started dismissing because the judges said, you got to be kidding me, right? Let's just call it for what it was. They were pulling people over not because they were committing the heinous crime of having an air freshener hanging from that mirror. They were pulling them over for driving while black, driving while brown, okay? Having a cracked windshield. Oh my God, we can't have a cracked windshield. You have a cracked windshield and oh my God, who knows what could happen. Thank God the police are there to enforce that, right? BS. Total BS. When all this crap was going on, they were pulling everybody over. And it was kind of like the height of the gang stuff. I get it. They were doing what they're trying to do. But, once again, people need to look at this stuff. But I'm telling you, so at that time, I had a lovely Jaguar automobile. And I had the thing maybe 3 weeks. And a rock came up on the highway because it happens in Colorado. You get a new windshield once every couple of years because all the rocks that hit up. Anyway, it cracked it. And it cracked it all the way across. And this was 15 years ago, right? And so this windshield was like $2,500 to replace, but I had insurance, whatever. So I got it replaced immediately, but I think I still had to pay the deductible. Maybe it was like $500 or $1,000, but it doesn't matter. It was expensive. And within a week of getting that in, what happened? I got another cracked windshield right across my line of vision, right there in the middle. And you know what I said? I'm not getting it fixed. I'm not going to get it fixed because I'm just going to wait till spring because it just happened. It was in fall. You know how many times I got pulled over? And I drive a lot When I was going, driving around from courthouse to courthouse, I would put like 36,000 miles on my car every year, right? I was driving a lot. But yet, curiously enough, when you drive a Jaguar, nobody cares if your windshield is cracked. But if you're driving, a little beater and you happen to be black or you happen to be brown, it was the crime of the century. And instead of just giving somebody their ticket for their cracked windshield or their air freshener, what do? Hey, do you mind if we search your car? You got any drugs on you? You got any whatever? Mind if we search your car? And it all flows from there, right? That Duante Wright case. I'm not saying it's right, but guess what? The guy had a warrant. They were going to get him somewhere. And maybe there would have been more officers there. Maybe somebody that knew the difference between their pistol and their taser after 26 years on the police force. Like, really? Right? I get it. We all make mistakes. We all have a bad day. But when your bad day results in somebody being killed, tough day, right? But the point is, there are so many of these BS laws. There's so many of these BS laws regarding traffic violations, okay? Do you really think that your legislature in your state, or do you believe that your city council in your city is so concerned about having safe automobiles traveling their streets because it is a public health risk? No. Who asks for those laws? Is it because there are so many beaters out there that you just, my God, they have that cracked windshield. You are going to not be able to see from the glare, and the sunlight's going to hit you just right. You can cause a multi-car accident. Oh, my God. It's going to obstruct your view. That's really what's charged. Obstruction of your windshield, right? When you have your little thing. No. Who goes? The police go to these legislators and they say, we'll pass a law that you can't dangle something on there. Because if you have an air freshener, everybody knows you have an air freshener for to cover up the smoke of that marijuana, right? The little wacky tobacco. You can't do that. Gee, and what population has been targeted for smoking that more than others? Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out. So when all these legislators sit back and think, oh my gosh, these police officers are so terrible. All right, when was the last time they ever went in and said we need to repeal a law that was ridiculous? All that traffic stuff is simply to be able to pull somebody over and for revenue generation. And if someone can prove me wrong, I will buy you the biggest steak dinner in town, okay? Because I don't think everybody cares that much about traffic violation. But when the traffic code is just as thick as the search and seizure book, you really have to wonder, what is the reason it is so large? In the famous words of Warren Buffett, when he testified before, I think it was Congress or the SEC, basically he said, hey, if you follow anyone for 500 miles, you can pull them over for something, right? They're watching you. Well, if anything that you do can, get you arrested or make contact, right? What do you need to pull somebody over with? Well, you need to see that they're committing a crime, right? Oh my gosh, there's that guy there. I think he's a gang member. Well, what's he doing? Oh, I don't know. He's not doing anything. He looks like he's driving. Oh my gosh, he did not turn on his turn signal 300 feet before his intended turn. Let's pull him over. Swear to God, I've seen it. Unmarked police cars, gang unit officers out there patrolling to stop gang violence, all that good stuff, right? But suddenly they become traffic enforcement officers? Come on. What sort of intellectual dishonesty do you have to engage in to say other than We're giving the police the tools to pull people over. And let's face it, who's more likely? Poor people, right? Poor people are more likely to drive maybe a car that has a few issues with it, right? They don't get to go turn in the new car and, get a new BMW or Mercedes every couple of years. Who are we targeting, ladies and gentlemen? Let's be intellectually honest. They pull you over for anything, and it's never about traffic enforcement. Like I said, if that's what it's become, where that's the only thing police officers can do is, I don't get it. Somebody sent me a comment when I made a comment once about, well, Scott, if it wasn't for a traffic enforcement violation, they would have never got Timothy McVeigh driving away from the Oklahoma City bombing. Yeah, they would. They just got lucky, right? They got lucky that day. And that's just the way it is. They would have found him. Do you think he would have gotten away? No, they would have found him. They would have figured out who it was. They just got lucky that they pulled him over that day. But look at all of these shooting type incidents. What's usually there? The one today in North Carolina, was it Andrew Brown, right? They're there to execute a search warrant. Okay, but he's in the car. I bet you they're going to say, oh, we're going to pull him up. We're going to wait till he pulls over and we're going to box him in for a traffic violation or something. And then it all starts. The Durante Wright case up in Minneapolis. Pull him over for a freaking thing hanging from the windshield. And I get it. The guy's breaking away. You can't have that. I'm a police officer. Can't let him get away. Okay, you know who the guy is. Like, why do you have to, if the guy's that desperate to get away, he's desperate to do just about anything, right? So, you know who it is. You get him next time. Write your report up. Just another charge. I just don't understand. And what happens when so many times these, traffic infractions, somebody gets pulled over and then the cop's like, let me, I want to search your car. Are you going to let me search your car? No. Why not? What are you hiding? Nothing. Can I leave now? No, I need to stay here longer. And it comes down to a respect thing. Cop feels they've been disrespected. They're going to get this, then it just escalates from there. Like, let it go. You just never know. Let's see, Donna Quintana. I'm a habitual traffic offender, and believe me, don't drive stupid and make sure all is good with your car. Yes, that's true. All right. But I've been known to drive pretty fast. I've blown by cops pretty fast driving down the highway. Do you think they pull Scott over most of the time? No. Why? Because they know. Okay, I mean, they don't know. They don't know who's driving the car. But who's more likely to give the officer crap and possibly fight his case? A guy driving, a European automobile or a guy driving a Ford Pinto? Who do you think the cop thinks is going to be able to bully around a little bit? And not all cops are bullies. I've said this before. I'm just saying, who do you think they're going to be more likely to pull over? Just a guess. Just a guess. Let me see here. There's a great quote. Criminalize everything. Well, yeah. I mean, there's lots of stuff about there. Everything is over criminalization of America. I mean, there's so many things that's just ridiculous. And like I said, start with the traffic code. Start with the traffic code. So all you legislators out there, next time you think you want to help save the world, let's get rid of a lot of the traffic code. Yeah, I get it's for safety. Okay, you have the brake lights, all that kind of stuff. Sure. But is that really what we're going to give police officers the basis to pull everybody over with? Guess what? They do. You can get pulled over for anything. Mark my words. It's it's just ridiculous, and it creates more issues than it needs to just because somebody wants to do it. And it's a money generating prospect for that. I thought the police were there to protect and serve, not to collect people's money. And I get if a guy's going 120 miles down the highway in busy rush hour traffic, that's probably reckless driving. I can justify that. But if you're pulling people over for going 65 and a 55, really? Like, tell me there's no crime in your community. Tell me that this is the most important thing they need to do is traffic enforcement. Just the way I feel about it. It's kind of up there on my pet peeve list. Like, you're supposed to have a front license plate on your car here in my state. Okay? My car, the front, it doesn't have a place to put a front license plate. And neither me nor anyone else is going to drill into that beautiful front license plate area where one could not go to mount something on there. That would be a crime, but that's the way it is. All right. Can't believe we've already done over an hour there. I want to thank everybody for watching. Please join us on our Patreon. We'll be going there in just a few minutes after a quick break. We'll send you the link. I think we're going to do a tour if we got this all tested out of, tour of the office. That'd be a little perk there for our Patreon members. And obviously you can call in. So if there's a case you want to talk about, we can talk about it. We can talk about anything you want. Where else can you get to talk to a lawyer, ask legal questions, and it only costs you like $5 a month? Seems like a deal to me. And if you become a Patreon member, we send out this little trial guide, has all the evidentiary rules, just good stuff. And it's just, it's worth it. I think most people that join our Patreon stay with us. And we're going to announce a couple new Patreons just this week. We might as well do it here, too. We had Mary, Madeline, Dan, KB, Erica, Christina, and Jessica. Thanks for being a Patreon. Appreciate everyone for watching. Please go to CrimeTalkSearch.com. They help make this possible. And hey, just like today, do you really know who your neighbors are? The guy that kidnapped the 9-year-old and assaulted her physically and sexually and, said, I have no idea where she may be. They searched the house, find her crying in a room. Yeah, probably going to be an attempted murder charge. That's the kind of stuff why you need to check people out. That's it. Bottom line. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you next Tuesday, and we'll see our Patreon members in about 10 minutes. Have a wonderful evening.